I'll introduce you. So good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another talk in our series, Conversations with the Past. Tonight, we're going to be hearing from John Strough or Joseph Warren. But John was, he was born in Glens Falls, but lived most of his life in Queensbury. After graduating from Queensbury Union Free School District in 1969, he attended Adirondack Community College. Following graduation, he attended SUNY Buffalo and obtained his teaching degree in 1973. He was quickly hired by the Queensbury Union Free School District, from where he retired in 2011 after 37 years of teaching. In 2004, he began his political career as a town councilman. He was elected town supervisor in 2014 and remains in that position today. So please join me in welcoming John/Joseph Warren for his talk. Joseph Warren, why call a county Warren?
Thank you, and thank you all for the time. And you know, there's three statutes that we did. This is the one at the Bunker Hill Monument, and the two others at the Duxbury School. You see that, and where I'm buried, which I'll get to. All right, so let's move forward. But some people have referred to me, and you wonder why, as the 15 states have Warren counties. I mean, who's Joseph Warren? It used to be a very popular name up until the mid part of the 19th century, just after the Civil War. He started to lose the concept, and I think we need to bring it back. I know the Warren County Historical Society is creating a center for me. I was Joseph Warren in terms of education and research, but I've been told a lot of good things. And I hope I earned those titles. And you'll notice there's one finished painting. I want you to think about why that painting remained unfinished. There is a reason, and then I'll share with you today. Okay, on the 17th of June, 1775, the Charles River and Boston beyond were swallowed by the metallic gray fog of the river, and the pungent powdered air sat eerily still. Only the rhythmic flashes of musket blasts made discernible the silhouettes of the few remaining brothers. Following 2 hours of intense fighting, exhausted, and with their ammunition drained, the Patriots peered over their earthen bank redoubt, knowing that this day's third redcoat advance would be the last. Knowing their fate, these brave colonists volunteered to stay so that their fellow colonial soldiers could live to fight another day. Among those who remained, I said, no ammunition, but bayonet was ready. It's pretty good. All right, but there is a painting John Humble did. There I am, lying there. Now, this painting has been romanticized, and you will find out I didn't look anything like that. They would not probably paint a picture of what I actually looked like following the battle of Bunker Hill, but so be it. All right, let's talk about my early life. I was born 1741, June 11th. My birthday's coming up. And you're probably saying, all right, well, he was born in 1741. We all know that he died, the federal for him now, June 17th, 1975. He was 6 days into his 34th birthday. And the guy up here doesn't look like he's 6 days into his 34th birthday. Fair enough.
There.
I am 181, 281, excuse me, soon to be 282, June 11th, okay? I had 3 other brothers. One was well known, and that's John Warren. He was the youngest of my brothers, or the second youngest, excuse me. He is the one that founded Harvard. My parents, I was named after Joseph and my mother, Mary. Now, Boston is not the same Boston that you have come to know. So I want to show you my Boston in 1773. There's the peninsula. And all right. That's the Boston little business called the Boston Neck. And you'll see in a minute that doesn't exist much anymore. And then Roxbury, we had our farm right in. So we were adjacent to Boston. That's what Boston looked like. I wanted to show you how Boston looks today. And I got 2 nice representations, and I couldn't make up my mind which one was better, so I put them both. As you see Boston in 1775, and Boston today, a lot of filling has been done. And the Boston Neck really isn't much of a neck anymore. My farm in Roxbury. We were an apple farm, and the apples that we developed, called the Warren Russet, and now if you go to a grocery store, you're more likely to see it as a Roxbury Russet, but keep in mind, that's where our farm was in Roxbury. So I attended Roxbury Latin School at 10 years old. And this is a school very strict, dedicated to the classics, producing Christian citizens, not Catholic, and a very firm education in Latin literature, the origin of the classics, and so forth. Your moral character was fundamental. And so I show you the Roxbury School I went to, and the Roxbury School of today, just to give you a little contrast. At 14, I went to Harvard. Now this is 1755. 1755 is going to be a turning point in my life. First of all, we're catching news as to the rumblings of what's going on over in the late St. Sacrament area. And the French and Indian War is about to be set apart. So here I am at Harvard. Now, Harvard wasn't all studied. Oh yeah, there was hazing, gambling, drinking, and some of them went to excesses. And you would be expelled if you got caught. And there's a lot of things that I did there too that I will tell you about them exactly. Proud of them. But the other thing, not far from campus is where the hangings were. And I can remember when 2 slaves were being hung right out in public, dead bodies left there for weeks. I would walk by it. Others, everybody else would. That's what was done to set an example. And these 2 slaves were accused of killing their own. 1755. Yeah, the French and Indian War. I began Harvard. My father's picking apples. It's October. Is that a time when you pick apples? My father's ladder fell and he broke his neck. He died instantly. Now here I am, 14 years old, with no father. Worse still, my mother, Mary Stevens. She's got one on the whole farm. We're not wealthy people. Matter of fact, when I went to Harvard, there was something like 380. And we were ranked. Oh, yeah. One of the little things that we don't share with one another. But I was like 350. I was good. By the time I graduated, I would work my way up to Social Security. People respected me. And I tried to live a life that people wouldn't respect. With my father's home. All right, so I graduated from Harvard 4 years later. And a couple of things happened. I started apprenticing. I did want to come down. There's no medical schools in the colonies at this time. Generally speaking, if you wanted to be a doctor, you went to England, went to school there, and then returned to the colonies. All right, I didn't want to do that. We didn't have the funds for that. And I apprenticed under one of the more famous, well-known doctors in Boston at the time, James White. So as I worked with James White, Dr. White, I also met people from the whole spectrum. The upper society, the lower society. I would meet big leaders like John Adams and Tories, Thomas Hutchinson, the colony's lieutenant governor, and we would become friends. So the names of Paul Revere and Bill Dawes also appear in my medical records. So I worked far wide. I started to get to know everybody in Boston. This is going to account why I would become very influential as time goes on. All right, while I'm learning the skills, I also had to earn money. My mother needed financial help with the farm, so I started to teach at the very school I went to, at the Roxbury Lab. I didn't teach there very long before my doctor's skills got so well, I could start again. Let's keep in mind, 1760. We were very close in. That was our mother country. I love and respect both George II and George. Now, George III was not the son of George II. Right? He was the grandson through George II's son, William Frederick. His younger brother was William Henry. Does that ring a bell? So we named our fortresses, our towns, our lakes after the people we respected most. And our alliance with England was strong, and it would be forever. That's what I thought in 1760. All right, and then things began to get stirred up. In 1761, we have the writs of equivalence. Now, in your world, you have to have probable cause, justified reason for searching anybody's car, searching anybody's house, Not with the rips of the system. You had a rip, you could search anybody, anytime. A man I came to respect, James O'Neill. We became friends. He gave a speech of his life. A man's house is his cat. And colonists have rights as English. Those words penetrated the Boston world at the time, and me especially. So as you see, before it progresses, things are going to start getting warmed up. I'm going to be in the middle. Another thing I'm very proud of. I was a Mason. I was admitted at 20 years old. The Lodge of St. Andrew. Well, actually, probably giving a spoiler alert, I'm going to be the Grand Master of the Mason for the entire thing. So, people like me like that. Let's take a look. Here's Boston in 1763. I have completed my apprenticeship with Dr. James Floyd. I opened my own medical practice and apothecary, and I had all kinds of concoctions: opium, cinnamon, Peruvian bark, lavender, onion tip, which was a combination of honey and sugar, and I used that for cleansing ulcers. We would do bloodletting, but I wasn't a firm believer in bloodletting. I thought that should be very limited. There was another doctor who, a woman, died. He and I told him I didn't like it. You did too much bloodletting. Well, bloodletting was to let out all the bad stuff, so the more the better, right? And but I didn't believe that. Okay, so the Treaty of Paris ends the French and Indian War. A very, very expensive war. Yeah, we fought it. We lost a lot of lives. Somebody's got to pay for it. Keep that in mind. The British have the idea of who should pay for the French and Indian War. All right, so I'm in Boston. We have a smallpox epidemic going on in 1763. It's going to go into next year. So you have, see the map to the right, okay? Fort William on Castle Island. That's where I set up a place for people who have smallpox, take them out of the population. And smallpox, also known as the speckled mosquito. And I believe you know why. Okay. So I remained in Boston. I didn't leave. And I inoculated and passed away. It was illegal to do. And, you know, smallpox could capture me, could kill me, but I'm trying to stay alive. That's the kind of person I am. And I gain a lot of respect for opening the institution on Castle William Webb. And I'll tell you, but you can read it too. My good friend, John Adams. Sam Adams too was good. All right, so how would we inoculate? Is it illegal? We would take a strand of cloth, open the wound up of a person who has smallpox, wipe it on the pus so that the thread, the fully ingrained with pups. Then I would put a scalpel slice about a half an inch into the person's arm. Then the piece of cloth with the smallpox pus, and then close the wound up with some bandages and so on. Some people died. They got smallpox. But most did not. Generally speaking, if you got smallpox, that was your death. If you got inoculated, chances were like 80% you would survive. It wasn't 100. So that's, it was 80%. It improved it. Here, picture of that they inoculated, and that is a big, that's so fun. All right. Oh, my beautiful Elizabeth Hoover. Now, her father was well known in Boston, and financially he had his good days, but overall he knew how to stay at it and make money. He lost a lot of money. He was a merchant. He had his own dock. He had his own ships. He did quite well. So I'm not telling you that because I married her for the family's money. That may have been in the back of my mind a little bit, but my heart is with Elizabeth. Now, there's a couple portraits of her. And this, the one to the right is often attributed to John Stanley Copeland. However, there is a discussion that perhaps you're not interested in, but I'm going to tell you about it anyways. Over who was the painter. So they believe Henry Pelham. And who was his artist? John Singleton Copeland. So he's going to look very similar in style, but they really think that that was not done by Copeland. Now, the other one, we're not even sure if it's my Elizabeth, but it certainly looks like her. So, and it was done about the right time. So I love it. He would give me gifts. All right. That French and Indian War, somebody got a fake. So the cigarette, 1764, they started the duty side, sugar, and other. The Virginian, whom I never met, but I did read what he had to say. I was very impressed. One of the things that struck me, give me liberty, or 50,000. You're going to see in some of my scripts the same kind of philosophy. I was very much influenced by that. Okay, back to the Stamp Act. Again, only 2 years after the French and Indian War, England was heavily in debt. They needed money, and well, we got those colonies. They seem to be doing pretty well. Let's take some of that money for ourselves. Let's tax the paper documents. What do you mean? You didn't ask us if you could tax. It's wrong. That's taxation without representation. We don't have a voice in Parliament. This is not right. This is not fair. You start seeing mob violence in the Boston streets. Now, things got so bad that you repealed it in 1766. That didn't help. New groups began to form. One called the Sons of Liberty. And guess who was one of the people that helped form the Sons of Liberty? I have to admit, I didn't do it on my own. My friends John Hancock, James Otis, Paul Revere, and many other names you would recognize were part of the Sons of Liberty. Well, why did we create them? Because this damn taxation by the British government and Parliament and the King is wrong. So now I did not condone. Some of the Sons of Liberty went to the extreme. They did tar and feather the tax people who were going out trying to collect tax on paperwood and everything else. So we tarred and feathered them. Now, can you imagine, even in these days, how much effort it would take to remove tar and feathers from once a month? Not a pleasant thing. Well, that's what you get for trying to collect tax money. Then the Declaratory Act. Yeah, it repealed the Stamp Act. Yeah, it lessened the Sugar Act because we were boycotting British goods. However, the Declaration Act in Parliament made it clear you colonists have to realize that we in England, Parliament has the power over you. And so they declared that very clearly, and that's why it's called the Declaration. Now, I began to get very stirred up. I'm still a big fan of Britain, King, Queen, Charlotte. Did you know the town next to you is named after Charlotte? Which third? Oh, Charlotte. Yeah, we were all part of that, and I'll get to that in a minute too, because some people want to know about what is the history of names for a town. Oh, you're going to learn from that. All right, we'll get there. I authored a series of articles for the Boston Gazette. Now, I didn't use my name, Joseph Warren. I used the Gottlieb. And somebody has written my name there just to point out that Dr. Warren actually did write. I did. Wasn't the only pseudonym that I would use. So the Bostonians rallied against the Townsend Act, and we were refusing to buy British goods. And I got 650 people to sign a non-importation statement. I was one of the signatures. All right. Slowly, I'm starting to shift towards political cause. And at first, I didn't move there directly, it was gradual. The Parliament 1765 Stamp Act, even though it was repealed the following year, was starting to bruise otherwise cordial relationship with the mother country. And despite the wrath felt by some because of the new tax's lack of colonial representation, I was among most other colonists who maintained their strongly felt paternalistic bond with George III. And after all, we named Lake George after George II. However, King and Parliament remained adamant that the colonies should help pay for this past war called the French Indian War. And for 2 years, they imposed the Townshend Acts on the colonies. I began to write in the Boston Gazette again under another pseudonym called the True Patriot. And there's a picture of me too. And oh, I'm sorry, I'm never supposed to be caught twice in the same house. That was done by chance. All right. So a true patriot, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to read the bullet part. And this is the name I'm under true patriot. I'm determined to dub myself the true patriot of North America and to sally out with my bow, arrow, and spear against those princely gentry, the junco, in frocks and trousers. All right, Junko is word Chapman Museum, Elizabeth Group. Find a true patriot. That was okay, and then we have the circuit that was written by James Otis and Sam Adams. It was sent to all the legislatures in the colonies. It urged the colonies to petition Parliament to repeal the Townsend Acts. British officials in Boston ordered the letter retracted. How dare you, colonies? Your kid is getting worse and worse, and you're going to make it worse for yourselves. Believe me, we are the most powerful nation that history has ever seen. You are playing with fire. So the British occupied Boston. And then, to make matters worse, the governor, Rancher Bernard, dissolves the Massachusetts General Court. Now, in the long story, James Otis was supposed to be appointed. Bernard didn't appoint him, angered a lot of people. And then we were telling him, we're angry, mad about this whole deal. He says, fine, I'll dissolve the whole court. What? What are you doing? It makes worse. So the Massachusetts voted 1917 to denounce the Townshend Act. It was a letter put together by John Adams. And my good friend Paul Revere, so mean-spirited to vote away the blessings of Englishmen, namely the rights, property, liberty, and property. Those 17 names who voted against rescission, in other words, they wanted John Adams to circulate a letter denouncing the ploys of the English, and 17 wouldn't. What did they do with the 17 who wouldn't vote the right way? They posted their names on the Liberty Tree. The Liberty Tree is now starting to gain some fame in the Boston area. Paul Revere too. 1770, a group of protesters protesting British taxation began throwing rocks at custom agent Ebenezer Richards. Ebenezer pointed his gun out the window and fired. And that musket ball hit 12-year-old Christopher Sire. 12 years old, struck in the chest. He died on my operating table. I had to do the autopsy. I was so angry. This did not have to happen. A 12-year-old kid. Now, today I hear in this society are getting quite used to these kind of things. And in our day, that's not so. So later on that year, not very far later, there was an incident on Kingston. A mob was forming around British soldiers. And they were hit by clubs, stones, snowballs. And then the British fired into the crowd, killing 3, wounding others. 2 would die later. So 5 in all got killed at the Boston Massacre. Now, you might say, only 5? Because this is going to be something that turns into a war. Paul Revere was together a nice engraving that you've all seen, showing the British soldiers throwing musket balls via gunpowder at a poor innocent crowd of colonists. How long is that? They even have a grave. And the worst that was done, okay, Thomas Hutchinson, the governor, acting governor, did an inquiry 8 soldiers, 1 officer, 4 civilians were arrested and charged with murder, and they were defended, interestingly enough, by John Adams. 6 of the soldiers were acquitted, and the other 2 were convicted of manslaughter and given reduced sentences. The men found guilty of manslaughter were really sentenced to be branded with the hand. I don't know what letter was used, but if you were a thief, your hand was branded with the T. May. I am 1772, March 5th. Does that mean anything to you? March 5th? Should. Boston Massacre, right? Yeah, all right. Good memory. We're 2 years later, and they asked me to give an oration. And I did. It went on quite a long time. Well, I'm not going to read you the whole thing, and you'll be thankful that I, but it was a work of genius. But I am going to share with you. May this almighty being graciously preside in all our councils. May he direct us to such measures as he himself shall approve and be pleased to bless. May we ever be a people favored of God. Periods are mine. You grandma people start this. May our land be a land of liberty, the seat of virtue, the asylum of the oppressed, a name and a praise in the whole earth until the last shock of time shall bury the empires of the world in one common, undistinguished world. That was part of my origin. Now I'm going to have another origin. They asked me to do it again in 1775. That's going to be more interesting when we get to it. All right. I was bragging about it. Here it is. I'm the Grand Master of the Masons. Now, some of you have been to Boston, right? Did you go to the Green Dragon Tavern? That was used as a meeting place by us and other rebellion sites. All right, you can see that the Green Dragon Tavern was located not far from the Mill Pond. Now, in the dark is today's Boston. And today's Green Dragon is a block away from where it's located here in the mountain. It's more inland, and when you walk the Independence Trail over the Paul Revere's house, you walk by it. Where it is today, but it was not always in that location. But the Green Dragon Tavern was a good place to meet, discuss. We did. We didn't have any of that tavern stuff. Leave that. You're buying. We had some of that tavern. All right. I listen. That. I love it. I wrote an epitaph. I'm not going to read it, but it's in all the publications. It really shows the depth of my love. Here, 4 children, Elizabeth, Joseph, Mary. All right, let's get on to some other things. You gotta know the characters. Let's talk about Thomas Patel. He's obviously right-wing lawyer. He's a merchant. He's a judge. He's a legislator. He's a royal governor. He's a man. And to be honest with you, I'm good friends with Thomas. As things warm up, that friendship would cool down. And some people thought that my possessions would be taken, that I would be hung. For what I'm saying, people started to know my pseudonyms in the Boston Gazette. They knew who I was. I can no longer hide. And I feared my life. Then people wondered, where's all the documents about Joseph Moore? I just believed it. I didn't want them to use it against me. I didn't want them to use it against my family. My 4 kids, all that I had. So, Governor Thomas Hutchinson contributed to a war word. He said, in part, abridgment of what are called the English liberties are necessary. You should learn with cutting some of your freedoms down. It's just the way it is. All right. Well, Sam Adams, Benjamin Church. Benjamin Church was the doctor I told you about earlier, who had bloodlet, an older lady, and let her die. I don't trust them. I never liked them. I told him that in the newspapers. Boston Gazette. I don't like him. What he did was wrong. He said, "You're trying to embarrass me? I'm one of Boston's respected doctors." And I just told him. So what you did was wrong. Not only that, I think he's a spy. He's going to the Green Tab. He's meeting with us. And you know what? Some of what we're doing and talking about is getting back to Hutchinson. Things aren't quite right here. So Sam Adams, Benjamin Church, and I wrote a response to Governor Hutchinson. Your Excellency is disposed to compare this government to the variety of corporations formed within the kingdom, with power to make and execute bylaws, etc. What they did, we did. And because they remain subject to the supreme authority of Parliament, to infer that this colony is also the subject of the same authority, the reasoning appears to us not just. Okay, so tarring and feathering continued, especially when your tax commissioners, your commissioners of customs. Here's a picture of John Hopkins getting tarred. And this is 4 weeks after the Boston Tea Party. So let's switch over to the Boston Tea Party. What happened? All right. It happened at Griffin's Wharf. Angry at Britain for taxation without representation, we dumped 342 chests of tea into the Boston Harbor. The tea was owned by the British East India Company, worth about $1 million. Did not fare so well with Britain that this act in defiance. I mean, where are you guys going to draw the line? This $1 million worth of tea you threw into the harbor? We don't want to be here. You say we have to buy the tea from the British East India Company, and we have to pay tax. What is wrong with the picture from our point of view? So we just do some more chart, and people wonder, was I one of those individuals who dressed up as a Native American, put charcoal all over my face to disguise myself, put a loincloth and jump the ship and throw the tea out the side? It's a secret. A lot of people said I organized. Maybe I did. Okay. Don't tell us. Okay, then things are going to get worse before they get better, folks. The intolerable. That's what we call. Okay. They were called the coercive vaccine, but we found them intolerant. So following our little tea party, the Intolerable Act. Well, it was more than one act. It was the Boston Port Act, the Massachusetts Government Act, the Administration of Justice Act, the Quartering Act, the Quebec Act. I'm going to get to those. And you're going to say, I hope you agree. We don't like any. And they were meant to punish us. Okay? And fourth, used to like, not so much now, is saying the diet test, the colonies must either submit or decline. So what were these intolerable? The Boston Port Bill. It closed off the port of Boston. John Hancock, a wealthy man. And now he is starting to wither in terms of his finances. His income is trading, and they've cut off the harvest. And there's others in our too about closing the Boston Port. And the Massachusetts, another intolerable act, the Massachusetts Government Act. It's tried to limit our power and tell you the king is in authority, Parliament's authority, not you. These are not going to do well. All right, so I did a song of liberty. So, you know, it's that marching song. You see the British soldiers. It's called the British Army Leader song. So my song has words, but that's the melody in the back. And the seat of science, Athens, and the earth's proud mistress, Rome, where now all their glories we scarce can find their tomb. Then guard your rights, Americans, nor stoop to lawless sway. Oppose, 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 oppose for North America. I'm not going to sing or read the whole thing. You get the idea. And you're probably thinking. The Quartering Act, what was that? If a British soldier came up to your door, knocked on your door, we're staying here. No, you're not. Oh, yes, we are. Me and the 15 guys with my family here. My kids, we don't have any extra. You can sleep in the bar. We're sleeping in the house. Well, you can imagine. There's another one of the intolerable acts that's lit over really well. Okay, the Quebec Act. Yeah, they designated the western region of north of the Ohio as part of Quebec and made Roman palaces. You know any Roman Catholics in New England in the 18th century? Probably not many of them. Okay. So they're just another thorn on our side. Probably not a big one most. So now the colonies are getting together. Everything that's happening in Boston, everything I'm doing is spread throughout the colonies. All 13 colonies are watching Boston, seeing what's happening. So they put together what we call the First Continental Congress, 1774. Keep these dates in mind. And of course, we eat at Carpenter's Hall. So who was the leader of the radicals in Boston? Yes. Bad luck, huh? All right. I knew the Spillane family because I was their dad. And they had a cute daughter. Her name was Mercy. And she flirted with me. And I have to admit, I'm a single guy. I am told that the ladies find me attractive, and why don't I remarry? I said I'm open to that. And, but Mercy caught my attention. She would help me watch the kids. And eventually she said, wife number 2. Right, well, did I play around otherwise? We might talk about that. Talking about mistress. The mistress we court, the mistress I court, liberty. And it's better to die than not obtain. Does that sound familiar to somebody from Virginia? Respected? Yeah. Things are warming up. So one of the French and Indian War heroes, call him Old Putt, Israel Putt, General Israel Putt, comes and he lives with me at my place. We've become close. I have a lot of respect for them. And I think that's people come to me. Congress is down in Philadelphia. Let's get together and think of all of our complaints. What needs to be done? Would you write that up, Joseph? Doctor? Well, I'm the kind of person, when they ask me to come here, they say no. All right, so I drafted. You may not even have heard of it. The Suffolk Resolves. The Suffolk Resolves, as you'll learn in a minute, become the foundation of the Declaration of Independence. All right. What did I say in my draft? That was agreed to, and even by Congress to that. He declared the coercive acts or the intolerable acts, we call them here, to be unconstitutional. And what? We rejected the Massachusetts Government Act that eliminated the Congress of Massachusetts and our representatives. It urged the leaders to establish a separate state. Let's just form our own state until the intolerable acts are repealed. And he advised Massachusetts leaders to retain all future tax collectors. Don't give them to the British. Let's boycott British. And let's get a militia going. We better get our own army going. And he warned the British officials that efforts to arrest the citizens on political charges would result in detention of the arrested. Often that. So he helped unite the colonies. The Suffolk resolved to become big, and I drafted. The First Continental Congress approved my Suffolk resolve and directed that the colonies would support Massachusetts, and a copy of that support would be sent to Parliament and the King. Now, who delivered? Little trivia question. Who delivered the Suffolk resolve that I drafted, that I wrote? Boston, Philadelphia. Paul Revere. Oh, very good. Okay, March 6th. Watch this year, 1775, right? I was again asked to share my thoughts at the 5th anniversary of the Boston Massacre. Now keep in mind, remember Roxbury, Harvard, classics, Roman and Greek thoughts, Roman and Greek philosophers, Cato, I knew word for word most of the stuff. All right. The Old South Meeting House is packed. I can hardly get to it. I can't get to it. And I've been told the British are looking for it. So I come up with this masterful, I'm gonna dress up as a Roman, I'm gonna put a toga on and go incognito and slip through the window. And he did, I did. And I gave another famous oration. And again, people wonder why I was good. Tell me, it's my education, it's the way I am. And part of my speech, and the speech was again a long commemoration. Now, this was March 6th. You're saying, Joseph, I caught you. The Boston Massacre was March 5th. I know that. But the actual massacre occurred on Monday. March 5th was Sunday. Sunday, church, convention, not a good thing. So we're going to hold the oration and the discussion of the Boston Massacre on Monday, March 6th. Just for those of you that are keeping track. So I said, act worthy of yourself. Personal freedom is a natural right of every man, and that property or an exclusive right to dispose of what he has honestly acquired by his own labor necessarily arises therefrom are truths which common sense has placed beyond the reach of contradiction. Think about that. Massachusetts Provincial Congress, Provisionary Government, October 1774 was originally established. Why do I mention it? Is because they put charge of the Congress of Massachusetts. Now, a lot of people don't know this. Who was Joseph Morgan? Obviously, a lot of people respect it. They're asking me to take these leadership roles, and I don't know how to say it. The Massachusetts Committee of Safety, I was the chairperson, I was the leader, I was one of the founders of the Committee of Safety. So we were setting up a shadow government, little government of our own, to counter the British. And here's something you'll find interesting. May 5th, 1775. Benedict Arnold comes to me. Now I knew the guy, I respected him. Comes to me, and he says, I hear you're starting to form a militia. Yeah, you are. You're trying to keep that from critics. Hush hush. But what do you have? Do you have any armaments? No, not yet. We don't. There's armaments and put that kind of road on just for the tape. They'd be easy. Hardly anybody there for the British. So I assigned Benedict Arnold the task of capturing those armaments. Me, there it is. Copy of the sworn statement. Me giving Benedict Arnold money, men. So you're wondering, okay, I thought it was Ethan then. So on the early mornings of May 10th, it's May 10th. That sounds familiar, doesn't it? With 1775. 69 soldiers of the 26th Regiment of the Royal Regiment of Artillery and their wives and children stationed at Fort Ticonderoga awoke to the unexpected sound of men shouting. Within minutes, over 80 armed Americans under the joint command of Ethan Allen and Benedict Arnold stormed the unprepared British fortification and seized it, capturing all of its occupants and armament. Now, would it be Benedict Arnold that brings those armaments over to Boston? No, that's Henry now. Now, a lot of people don't know Henry Knox. He was just a book in Boston. And just a book. Who would have thought? But here he is. He would be sent up to transport those armaments from off. It's a second siege. I wouldn't have thought to see that. But it's kind of giving things away. It's coming. Henry Knox spent 2 weeks right here. No. In his budget, there are any armaments for protect on the conflict in 2 weeks here. In December 1755. And on Christmas Eve, the finally, he had the slaves laid, he had some of the oxen and strong horses, and he was able to carry the army. Eventually, so, what did I say? Good friend Sam Adams. I think Sam Adams. Financially, he was a mess. He made it into the year. So I said to him, we must now prepare for everything, as we are certain that nothing but success in our warlike enterprises can possibly save us from destruction. Thomas Gay. Okay, so he was sent here. You remember at the French table. Okay, good. And he takes over what? The divisions of British soldiers. Oh, and I had to throw a picture of his American. Oh yeah, he's 4 college, lived in university. Not that lucky dude. Margaret King. Now I was his doctor. And he would follow me all the time. You want to take care of illnesses. If people are going to have, keep in mind, all right, my spy network worked very well. And I learned that Gates was planning on sending British troops to Lexington and Concord to capture the armaments that we're trying to gather. And he's also after some leaders. I found out about this. Now, who told me? Whoops. I didn't say Margaret, did I? There were rumors that I was having an affair with her. Don't spread that kind of stuff. But I did learn that he was planning on gathering those weapons that we had secured away in the Lexington Concord. All right, so let's talk about the weapons of Lexington Concord. So George III put a price on John Adams. So they weren't only after the armaments, they were after some of our leaders. And so I wanted to know, and everybody else wanted to know, are they going to go by land? In other words, are they going to go by the neck into Roxbury and go that way to Lexington Concord? Or are they going to go by sea to Charlotte and go that way? I learned he was going to go by sea. 1 if by land, 2 if by sea, so 2 lights went up in the church to warn everybody. And I sent out Bill Goss and John Hancock and Paul Revere to go out and warn everybody. And they did. So here we have the battles of Lexington, and following that, the Battle of Concord. Who fired the first shot? No, we don't know. Doesn't make any difference like that. With the gunfire, they didn't find anything. We had hidden it very well. And on their retreat. Now, I was back in my, started to set things up. Now I travel over. 2 reasons. One is I wanted to get my shoe. 2 is any of our people or even the I could help take care of. So on the retreat, we did a job retreating British soldiers. I joined in. Yes, I was taking care of people as I could, and I was joined in on fighting. And I almost lost the arm. A musket ball seared my scalp, took part of my wig. I kept firing away. I lost track. I don't know how many British soldiers I killed, but numerous. It was not good for the British retreat, which wouldn't make them happy with tough. All right, now I'm giving my words of wisdom to town. I'm not going to read it, but basically, the sentence I like most is about truth is laid down. In our laws, may deluge your country in blood and entail perpetual slavery upon the few of your posterity who may survive the carnage. We beg and entreat, as you will answer to your country, to your own consciences, and above all, as you will answer to God himself, that you will hasten and encourage by all possible means the enlistment of men to form an army. That was my job. The second Continental Congress is going. All the colonies are getting all right. All right, I was appointed a major general by the Massachusetts provincial. So it's June 14th. That might, those of you that are savvy in history know that 3 days from now, June 14th, 3 days into my 34th birthday. 34th. I've never worn a uniform like that because they haven't been designed and used yet. So when I did an artist, that's where I was. And I June 14th, the provincial Congress was really. Why? I was funny about this, but you know what? All those farmers that came here, as I called them here, they're deserting. They're going. I'm warning everybody. Folks, we're going to learn. We're going to lose. We're going to lose the army. We've got to gather. We've got to get together. We've got to do something. So I'm chair of this committee of public safety. Now I'm doing the Council of War near Harvard. So we start to direct, what are we going to do to siege Boston, hold the British there? Colonial leaders learn of our strategies, June 16th. So the night of June 16th, we have some people gather, and there's an argument. Do we start building fortifications on top of Bunker Hill or Breeze Hill? The argument that Breeze Hill would be closer to the coastline where the British soldiers would be coming in the first onslaught, not giving the advantage of that little knoll, was more important than taking the bigger hill. So the fortifications were made on June 16th, the night of June 16th, 1775. And in the morning, British all from Boston, across the harbor, Charles River. So we're making it. We can't have it. We've got to do something. All right. So the Battle of Bunker Hill. Okay. Battle wasn't fought on Bunker Hill, it was fought on Breeze Hill. And we still fought battle. So, as you can see, there's the fortifications on Breeze Hill. There. Bunker Hill is over here. You know, John Stark, his team, over here. Prescott, Pitt, others, who French anymore, you're with me. I'm not there yet. We'll be there. All right, so you wouldn't believe I'm prone to headaches. That morning, I'm in anger. Horrible headache. The fighting is going to happen. I want to be part of it. Right, I overcome my woes. Now keep in mind, I was appointed a major general just a couple of days ago. So I go to the area where the fighting is going to begin. And I said, General Warren, are you ready to give leadership? They said, no. But I'm going to be a representative. I'm going to do that one. And then that, need that. And I'm going to fight for him. Well, we're low on ammunition. I don't care. Just do what I want to do. The fighting began. Well, they mentioned me. Yeah, I got shot. Those I had my bayonet ready. I'll keep in mind. Okay, let me tell you what happened. I was shot here, the musket ball here, blew out the back of my head. The soldiers, when they saw who it was, Joseph Martin, they cut me up in pieces, desecrated me anyway. I'd rather be portrayed like this than what really happened to me, and that's fine. Okay. I'm dead. The British take over the hill. This was after the third raid. I could go into detail what happened with that old Bunker Hill, but we're going to be here all night unless I start getting to the end of the story. Among the first of West to our expressive read is my friend Dr. Warren. This is being written by friends of mine. Many other officers are wounded and some killed. It's impossible to describe the confusion in the place. Women are killed and flying into the country. Armed men going into the field. Wounded men returning from there to fill the streets. This is what followed the Battle of Bunker Hill. Just nuts. Okay, I knew you were curious. Okay, so you see the hole by my jaw and the extra in the back of my head. All right. Not three sites, that's what happened. George Washington arrived at the beginning of July, shortly after the Battle of Bunker Hill. He hears about my death, he hears about my pain, he knew how much I was going to create this independence as it would turn out to be. And he says, here, standing on Breeze Hill, you lost your commander-in-chief. Well, we all know who they eventually made commander-in-chief, right? George Washington. But if I had lived, who would have been commander-in-chief? Okay. So here, John Quincy, everyone's lamenting my passing. My fiance, Mary Clay, she wants to keep the kids. Brother John doesn't want her to have the kids. They have this big fight. She can't afford. You know who says it? Big one. Benedict Arnold. That's my fiance. Her save money so she can take care of my kids. people, you know, Bennington Darrell was betrayed so badly. Didn't do the traitor's act, and I guess that's why, but. You know, care about all the good things that he did. So afterwards, you know, my kids, not many of them wouldn't be old, only one, we got to the one carrying on my name, carrying on my today. Here's where I'm buried. Another statue is next to this. It's in Forest. Here's some books I've read. I would suggest reading. They're very good. And here I am. I asked you in the beginning, why am I not king? Why is it unfinished? Because my job for this nation, I died. Now, that's why we named Warren County, but it wasn't always named. It was part of Albany County, that was too big. It became Charlotte County, that was too big. It became, well, Charlotte, and you're not going to call a county Charlotte after just be British, you don't like it, go away. So we named Charlotte County, Washington County. Well, Washington County is too big. All right, so let's divide that up. What do we call this other county? Warren County. On you depend the fortunes of America. You are to decide the important questions upon which rest the happiness and the liberty of millions yet unborn. Act worthy of yourself. Now is no time for any of America's children to shrink from any hazard. I will set her free or die. But we should be very proud to call our county Joseph. And somebody wrote a nice essay. That's the end of my story.